Good evening, welcome in RTD's newsroom for this new edition of this Saturday, December 19. Here we have the main topics. First of its kind, ceremony of laying the first foundation stone of an Olympic swimming pool behind Goulet football playground has been held. The UN has released a new report on this year's International Migrants Day. You're watching live RTD's English News, or welcome. Under the high patronage of the Prime Minister, Mr. Abdulqadir Kamil Mohammed, the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, has organized a ceremony of laying the first foundation stone of an Olympic swimming pool behind Goulet Stadium. This ceremony has brought together several members of the government, especially the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Mr. Badul Hassan Badul. This project of Olympic swimming pool is entirely financed by the Kuwait Fund. This Olympic swimming pool is a primer of its kind and will help the fight against juvenile delinquency, obesity and cardiovascular disease, but it will allow to the young talent to participate in the international championship. In a brief allocation, the affair in charge of the Kuwait ambassador, Aden Al-Karim, has stated that these projects reflect the good relations which exist between Djibouti and Kuwait, especially in the field of sport. In his address, the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Badul Hassan Badul, said that this gathering this morning, by the grace of the Almighty, is for the laying of the first stone of the Olympic swimming pool. This new project, athlete of international scale, is part of this vast building seat in terms of achievement of sport infrastructure, initiated by the head of state, Ismail Omar Guelleh, who has always placed the empowerment and development of the Djiboutian youth at the center of the government concerns. Indeed, the construction of this Olympic swimming pool is the first of its kind in our country, he said. It's an Olympic and sport time for the whole of the Olympic and sport movement. It complements an important device in terms of achievement of sports infrastructure, as well in the capital and in the regions of interior. This important tool of work will serve as the teaching material for the benefits of young girls and boys of the country, and will contribute to the promotion and development of the swimming. I'm convinced, he said, that the National Swimming Federation will put in place the organization of several championships in different categories, as well as among young girls and boys. The Prime Minister Abdulqadir Kamil Mohammed has not failed to pay tribute to the Kuwait population, who have active to participate to finance this great project in the relentless effort they undertaking for building a great nation for the future generation. On behalf of all the members of the government, I want to express my deep appreciation of the government and people of Kuwait for the cooperation and the ties that link of our two countries, say the Prime Minister. Once again, we meet on this occasion the laying of the foundation first stone for the first Olympic swimming pool in the Republic of Djibouti. He also added that he was a gratitude goes to the Kuwait Development Fund for its continuing support to our beloved nation. I would also like to thank all the agencies of the Republic of Djibouti who participate to the realization of this project under the direction of the leadership of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, which has not spread its effort to build a strong generation and honoring the name of Djibouti. Moving on to another news, the Southern ambassador for his final departure, Hussein Al-Amin, has paid a courtesy visit to the President of the National Assembly, Mohammed Ali Hamad. On the agenda, the international situation concerning the Arab world, and especially the development of relations not only between parliamentarians but between the two institution sisters have been mentioned. The Sudanese diplomat warmly thanked by the President of the National Assembly for the warm welcome and expressed his satisfaction with the fruitful relation existing between the two broadly countries. Under the chairmanship of the Deputy Sharmake Are Musa, the member of the Finance Committee, have met this morning in the room of the National Assembly in order to consider the draft law regulation for 2060. The government was represented by the Minister of Budget, Mr. Bode Ahmed Bode, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Budget, Mr. Simon Mibratu, and the Director of the Budget, Mr. Atman Sadiq Ahmad, were also present. The Minister has explained that the exercise 2060 stopped in the balance between revenue and expenditure from the sum of 126 billion 196 million 651,363 equivalent to a decided rate of 4.6% compared to the amending budget for the fiscal year 2050. The new measure in revenue following the National Foundation on the Taxation, which took place from June 50 to 30, 2050. It emerged a series of measures of tax reform that the government is committed to adopt and to implement. According to a timeline spread over these 3 years, some of the measures have a scope on the tax pressure and other focus on an improvement of the fiscal environment in Djibouti. Indeed, in the framework of the improvement of the fiscal environment, the budget 2060 will put in place a strategy that focuses on the extension of the TIC for lower wage to 15,000 for Djibouti, the enlargement of the most value to the more real estate value, a downward in revision of the patent for the importer, review of the registration right, review of stamp duty, review of general traffic of tax. In a brief interview, the Minister of the Budget, Bode Ahmed Roble, who represents the government, said that today we are gathering in order to consider the draft law regulation for 2016. The budget, he says, is based on 3 major points. The advantage strengthens the purchasing power of the household, the employee and agent of the state. Following, he said, the National Foundation of the Taxation, which took place from June 2015, he said it emerged a series of measures of tax reform that the government is committed to adopt and to implement according to a timetable spread over 3 years from 2016 till 2019. Some of the measures have a scope on the tax pressure and other focus on an improvement of the fiscal environment. The budget 2016 also strengthened national security with the recruitment of more than 1,200 soldiers, as well as the change of the passport on a biometric passport in order to facilitate the integration of all citizens against the terrorist threats. The Minister of Interior, Mr. Hassan Omar Mohammed, has initiated today in his cabinet a contract for obtaining a biometric passport for the Djiboutian. The company of the Director of National Police, Colonel Abdillahi Abdi Farah, and senior official of the French printing company. This contract is part of the public service obligation mission who commit the state to award its citizens. The Minister of the Interior has explained that this contract of new biometric passport will facilitate the integration of all citizens against the threat of failed terrorist attack like in the rest of the world. This new biometric passport will have a custom data, a serious element and mandate particular for the purpose of protection against counterfeiting and manipulation. The Djiboutian authorities are considering shortly the procedure for the exchange of a new biometric passport by the end of the year 2060. The Interior Minister Hassan Omar Mohamed has in his intervention underlined the importance of these new biometric passports to deal with these terrorist threats. He said, like the rest of the world, the national ID must be secure to the counterfeiting and manipulation. That's why our citizens already have a digital ID, he pointed out. Today we proceed with the signature of the contract for secure biometric passport that will cost the government more than 1 billion Djibouti's franc, he said. He added in his remarks that these new biometric passports will have custom data, a serious element, and mandates particulars for the purpose of protection against counterfeiting and manipulations. The People's Palace has hosted this morning the biannual meeting between the mosque imam and the country of the Minister of Muslims and Waqf, Mr. Aden Hassan Aden. The meeting was held within the presence of the General Secretary of the Muslim Ministerial Department, Mr. Mohammed Douali, as well as other responsible of the department, such as Mr. Asala Ahmed Abdallah, the Director of Muslim Affairs. This meeting was a freedom of view, also the participation of imam and pressure of the whole of the national territory. The Minister and the ulama discussed about the preparation of the Mawlid al-Nabi, a large ceremony for the commemoration of this annual event scheduled on Tuesday next at the Corniche. The court of this meeting, the Minister has urged to all the imams to organize the preparation of this event in their respective districts. The Director of Foreign Affairs, Muslim, and made a speech in which he affirmed the importance of the role of ulama, was imam of mosque, to guide the population and strengthen the Islamic effort in our country. In his side, the Minister of Muslim Affairs, Culture and Waqf has in his speech indicated that the commemoration of Mawlid al-Nabi is a duty for all of us. He traced the history of the commemoration of Mawlid al-Nabi, and as usual he said this festival has been celebrated in the past years. He also indicated that the three neighborhoods that organized the Mawlid al-Nabi ceremony without the imams, and in this context that he urged imam to lead the ceremony in their respective neighborhood with the inhabitants. The minister has not failed to remind the imam their duty to guide the population in the well-being of our religions. And finally, the Minister of Muslim Affairs and Culture and Waqf has added in his remarks that the department intends to organize the annual Mawlid al-Nabi next Tuesday at the Corniche. Health now. Dr. Qasim Issa Usman has carried out this morning an inspection visit to the regional hospital of Ali Sabieh to see the state of progress of the work of facilitating equipment of the hospital before its inauguration. The Minister of Health was accompanied by the Prefect of the region, Mohammed Wabari Asoui, the President of the Regional Council, Umar Ahmed Wa'ais, member of the region, Abdi Khair Bouh, as well as Jama Ilmi Yabe, the new Director of the Regional Hospital of Ali Sabieh. The Minister has carried out the visit to the new premise of the regional hospital of Ali Sabieh, a brand new whose construction was recently complete, and it has in the first place visited the premise of the hospital. The remind that some finishing touch the installation of the equipment of the building in materials, medical device. In terms of equipment and material are in the course of installing. The regional hospital has a capacity of 103 beds, though in equipment modern medical. In addition, general medicine, the hospital will house a specialized service such as surgery and gynecology. The hospital will allow the population of the two regions of the south to avoid the costly movement throughout the capital and receive one place of care of quality. And at the end of his visit, the Minister of Health, Dr. Qasim Issa Usman, has met the Uqal and Chief Custom of Asajog in the residence of the regional prefect, along with the prefect of the region, the president of the regional council, Umar Ahmed Wais, the member of the region, Abdi Khair Bouh, and the new director of the regional hospital, Jama Ilmi Yabe. The meeting has led to the prefect of the region, Ali Sabieh, Mohammed Wabar Asoui, to draw up a balance sheet of the achievement in the sector of health in the region of Ali Sabieh. It has been recognized that the health has significantly improved these last years. By following, the prefect of the region has presented to the customary Chiva and Uqal the appointment of the new director of the regional hospital, Jama Ilmi Yabe, which is native to the region, Asajog. In his intervention, the Minister of Health, Dr. Qasim Issa Usman, has first referred the major line of the health policy of the government before recalling the rights for any person resident in the country to have access to quality care, and then he conveyed the greetings of the head of state, Ismail Omar Agili. The Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training has organized yesterday a trip to the Musha Island to its teaching staff of the capital. It's a total of more than 350 based teachers from different fundamental institutions and secondary schools that have taken to this trip to the Musha Island. The objective was to motivate teachers but also allow a moment of relaxation and conviviality, which one of the places most frequently in our country. The Minister of National Education, Dr. Jama Al-Miaukiye, as well as the senior officials of the MENFOP, has also taken part at this trip. Football, swimming, hiking in the sea was on the agenda and have allowed the different body of the education, even if they are the primary, the college or high school of general education or professional, to spend a good moment together in relaxation in the Musha Island. After the prior 3-day and lunch, the highlight of the show was the tombola organized in the afternoon, and which has seen the participation of all teachers, where several teachers have won prizes such as a computer plate, laptop, and the happy winner has received a car. That is a relaxed atmosphere that this trip has ended, a moment which has allowed all participants to better known and share in context outside of the school, another way to sustain the cohesion and the team spirit of the education family. In this 5th day of the week of the Universal Health Insurance, we make the point on the partnership of the National Social Security Fund with the Hospital Al-Rahma in order that the insured must be support for the benefit of the hospitalization or surgery. The objective of this partnership, recorded in a convention between the two parties, was also intended to relieve the center of care of the CNSS with the affiliation of a new insurer as a public servant. The officials are not the only beneficiaries of this partnership. The conventional or independent workers are also supporting this structure, but the condition to be referred by the doctor of the CNSS report.
In the hospital of Ar-Rahma, the National Social Security Fund has a counter to welcome the beneficiaries of the health insurance that are referred for surgical or hospital care services. Those who are insured pay nothing. It's the Social Security who pays back the cost of the care provided. The local government officers who, with the universal health insurance, benefit for the first time a medical coverage are treated directly by Ar-Rahma Hospital with their AMU card in order to relieve the traffic congestion of the CNSS center care. The private and independent work can also receive cares at Ar-Rahma Hospital on the one condition that a CNSS doctor sends the patient to Ar-Rahma. For the private and independent, a doctor from the CNSS must send the patient to Ar-Rahma. The patient must have his AMU card in order to be supported within the established care by the CNSS doctor note, whether for an intervention, hospitalization, a medication or a surgery. This partnership has been made possible after the signing ceremony in March 2014 between Ms. Hana Farah Asowi, the National Social Security Fund Director, and Ms. Dr. Muhammad Al-Sharqawi, Ar-Rahma Hospital Director. Since this convention has seen the light, they insured from different social professional categories from any medical cost and can heal themselves in the hospital of Ar-Rahma. It is the case of this man, an employee in a private company that has been hospitalized to treat a sore at the level of his foot, which does not cease to be open due to his diabetes. For him not to amputate his foot, he has to stay for more than 1 month in the hospital.
The
CNSS doctor have sent me to Ar-Rahma, so here I am as an insured person. It is 1 month that I'm hospitalized. I was told that I was going to be amputated by the CNSS doctors. Decided I would be treated first and not being amputated. So every morning they change my bandage and clean the wound. I am diabetic, so if the wound open, my arm will be affected, and as you can see, it's starting to heal. Like this patient, there are more than 10,000 insured persons who have been supported at Ar-Rahma Hospital in the year 2015. The CNSS has reimbursed the costs care provided to these people. We have cured more than 10,000 patients who have been referred by the CNSS during this year. The cost refunded by the CNSS for these people is more than 60 million Djiboutian francs. In addition to Ar-Rahma, the CNSS has been subsidized other medical structures such as Hôpital Pelletier. The primary objective is to provide healthcare in all structures of the country without advancing the money.
And now moving on to the African continent, Rwanda President Paul Kagame has said he does not want to be president for life, speaking soon after casting his vote in the referendum that is expected to endorse amendment to allow him to stand for re-election for a third term. Mr. Kagame says Rwandan who want him back, responding to a question as to whether he wants to rule indefinitely. Mr. Kagame say, I don't want ask Rwanda who are asking me why they want me. Ask to say when his answer to the demand will come. Mr. Kagame reply, let's see that when time come on what he hoped to do for Rwanda when he is re-elected. The president said, look at the record and decide for yourself. When asked whether he is grooming a successor, Mr. Kagame gently replied, do you want to apply? It was on Top Stories. The United Nations has released a new report on this year's International Migrants Day. The United Nations said that every minute 8 people leave everything behind to escape war, persecution, or a terror. Explained.
In 6 months in 2015, over 20 million people fled wars and persecution, more than in the whole of 2014. The UN has reported total global forced displacement this year is likely to exceed all previous record and go beyond 60 million people. 2015 is on track to see worldwide forced displacement exceeding 60 million for the first time. 1 in every 122 humans is today someone who has been forced to flee their home, the report said. Not only are people fleeing their homes in record number, but opportunities for them to return safely are at the lowest level in 3 decades. The UN Refugees Agency reported said between January and June, an estimated 84,000 refugees voluntarily returned home compared to 107,000 over the same period last year. Some 839,000 people joined the rank of refugees over the period, with Syria, Ukraine accounting for about half of that number. Afghanistan, Somalia, South Sudan, Burundi, the Central African Republic, Democratic of Congo, Iraq made larger contribution as well. Never has there been a great need for tolerance, compassion, and solidarity with people who have lost everything. Antonio Guterres, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, said in a statement, Germany was the largest recipient of asylum seekers in the first 6 months of the year, as the inflow is steadily increased and reached 159,000, close to the entire total for 2014. Russia is the second largest recipient, with 100,000 asylum claims lodged, most of them by Ukrainians fleeing the armed conflict in the east of the country. However, countries bordering conflict zones, many of them developing nations themselves, are hit hardest by the flow of refugees. The report added, Lebanon hosts the biggest number of refugees compared to its population size. Turkey hosts the world's biggest share of refugees in its territory, amounting 1.84 million.
Heavy rain have plunged the Philippines, threatening to aggravate flooding that has prompted the government to declare a state of national calamity. The death toll after a week of devastating weather has risen to 41 according to the confirmed report from National and Local Disaster Monitoring Agency. Let's see the comments.
Shoulders deep in floodwater, residents in the center of the Philippines are struggling with the aftermath of yet another typhoon that has killed at least 41 people. The strong winds and downpour caused by Typhoon Melor have left a trail of destruction, and thousands of families expect to spend the holidays homeless without electricity. We really need help, especially because we are approaching Christmas and the New Year, said a 62-year-old Mercy Isip, a resident of the Pampanga province. We can't even work because of the floodwaters. More than 700,000 people have been displaced and schools remained closed on Friday. Typhoon Melor died out in the South China Sea on Thursday, but the country is now bracing for a tropical rainstorm that could make flooding worse over the weekend.
Here we put you in for tonight's news. Thank you for being with us and enjoy with the rest of our programs.